These We the People News. Okay, not attorney, not giving legal advice. All right, educational purposes only. I'm gonna hurry up and go through this because this is a long video. I do want to point out how many times has these officers escorted people from council doing their redress, all right, and said because they had to follow their policy, but ignored the Constitution, y'all. So we need to really dig in on some of these things of the cause and effect against us. All right, I'm trying to get this moved around a little bit. All right, let's proceed forward.
So that's how they violated the Fourth Amendment. Let's talk about the Fifth Amendment, right? And in the Fifth Amendment, we are looking at the fact that you have the right not to incriminate yourself, and you also have the right to be justly compensated for anything that's been taken from you. So when they tell you, if you don't give us what we're asking for, you're going to jail. That's threat, duress, and coercion via its arms, okay? You, a reasonably prudent man or woman, now has cause and reason to believe that they're going to be caused harm, damage, injury, or loss. That is otherwise known as domestic terrorism, okay? They're engaged in domestic terrorism, being foreigners on your land without the authority from the Secretary of Treasury to even handle your estate.
And that would be also domestic abuse in the common law. That's trespass upon our rights, our natural rights. So you got natural right trespass. You got also domestic abuse in the common law era. And all these other words he's saying as well. So treason.
Or engage with you, or be outside of the 10 square mile area known as Capitol Hill. All right? Let's move on. We're going to talk about the Sixth Amendment. How are they violating your Sixth Amendment? Well, they come in uniform. The officer, the judge, the clerk of the court, the district attorney are all paid by the same fucking entity. They're all in cahoots with one another, dragging you into a foreign jurisdiction and running game on you because you don't know the Constitution. You don't know how to hold them accountable. You don't know how to throw them in jail, Leavenworth, or in Guantanamo Bay. 2025, I want to see a bunch of you guys putting people in Guantanamo Bay. Not because you want to, not because you have to. It's because it is what needs to be done to ensure that our offspring don't have to endure what we've endured for the last 40, 50, 60 years. All right, how we affect positive change is by putting these people exactly where they belong. We're not doing it out of ill will. We're not doing it out of malice or bad intent. We're doing it because it is what is expected of us if we are going to enjoy this republic that so many people have given their life for. Okay, it's a duty incumbent upon us. Therefore, it can't be malicious in nature because we're just duty bound to hold them accountable. All right, how did it violate the Seventh Amendment? Well, of course, they're going to tell you you have a right to a jury trial. It could be a bench trial, or it could be a jury trial, or you can have a jury of your peers. Well, that's a fucking shit show. You can't possibly have a jury of your peers because every last one of them numbnuts is going to go in there and raise their hand and pledge and vow to be a United States citizen. Well, United States citizens derive from Washington, D.C. So all of them, right out the gate, commit perjury. Okay? So all the juror members commit perjury. Secondly, you're not guaranteed a right to a jury trial or a bench trial in administrative law under the Administrative Procedures Act under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, under a Article 4 military tribunal, ladies and gentlemen. What are we guaranteed? We, the American people, okay, we, the state citizens, what are we guaranteed? Okay, we're guaranteed one court of competent jurisdiction. We're guaranteed to be left the fuck alone by our public servants unless there's a man or woman making a claim stating that we've caused harm, damage, loss, or a hardship to them, and we refuse to acknowledge the harm, damage, loss that we've caused and make right with them. Okay, and now they're going to drag us in to a court of competent jurisdiction to get remedy, resolved, to redress their grievances because they're a man or woman aggrieved. In the instance that you're in an Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 venue and Article 4 military tribunal, you need to understand that you're being drugged into a foreign jurisdiction, all right? And that's the Seventh Amendment violation because you're guaranteed a trial by way of jury, okay, by a competent group of your peers, all right, in an Article 3, subsection 2, venue, a constitutional organic court of jurisdiction and a court of record. And you're being denied that in these lower inferior courts. These are administrative courts where they're trying to find the facts, which they're really not trying to find the facts. They're trying to figure out how they can hem you up. So how they can extort you to bolster the bankruptcy and use you as a creditor while not disclosing the true nature and cause of the transaction, which is really banking. All right, and the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Article 4 venues, it's all about administering the bankruptcy on behalf of the office of the President of the United States, ladies and gentlemen. You don't belong there. You don't belong there. All right? So let's talk about the 7th Amendment. That's another way that we're going to disqualify them because we're demanding our trial by way of jury, and they, oh yeah, we're going to give you a trial by jury. We're going to.
And on the side note, add to the list, right? If we're going into this military foreign jurisdiction, right? Now that's in the case if they deny us a trial by jury. Now it just became a bill of attainder. Any fines that's been attached, you're not getting justice, and you're being fined, and all that kind of stuff. Well, in Texas, that's Article 1, Section 16, right? What is it? A bill of attainder ex post facto. Okay? And the United States is, geez, what is Article 1? Let's see. Can't remember now. My apologies.
They'll say it, and then you'll realize really quickly they're not giving you a trial by way of jury. They're giving you a jury trial, which means the judge decides the law, and the dipshits who all purge themselves and proclaim to be United States citizens are going to turn around and rule on the facts of the case. And the ministerial administrator, who's really an administrative law judge, is going to tell you the law that's applicable. For example, let's just say it's a driving offense. The judge, the ministerial administrator, is going to stick to the DMV code. They're going to stick to your revised statutes for your state pertaining to the Department of Motor Vehicle, which means that the agent on the side of the road was in a cooperative agreement. The gun-toting moron was in a cooperative agreement with the DMV enforcing the Motor Vehicle Code. So he's a Motor Vehicle Code Enforcement Officer, and that is what they're going to call law, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to call the Department of Motor Vehicle Regulations the law in that instance. They're going to presume and assume that you were engaged in commerce. They're going to presume and assume that you're an employee that's bound by those codes and regulations created and promulgated by the DMV, who went into private cooperative agreement with the Attorney General and the Governor in the United States and the AAMVA under the Motor Vehicle Safe Care Act, the Motor Vehicle Highway Safety Care Act. Okay, so it's important to understand what they're doing. That way you can stop it and head it off. At this point,
and that's the reason why you see some of these people really saying, hey, I'm not operating in commerce, right? They're giving the officer a notice they're not performing in commerce at the particular here and now, the present, okay? Just because he's got title on his car, just because he's doing this and this and this, doesn't mean he's in commerce, right? Even 18-wheelers, they got a logbook. But you can be off the logs if you're going to go home. But you have to come home and go back to where you left from, off the logs as well. And then you can proceed forward at your 72-hour mark or 34-hour mark or whatever that case may be. But even in commerce, in the 18-wheeler section, there is a time frame you could be off the logs because you're not operating in commerce, people. That's the reason why it was in there, so that I can go home and not be in commerce. Just saying. If they're doing that with 18-wheelers, then what are they doing to you?
The Eighth Amendment violation comes in. Cruel and unusual punishment. They're running a simulated legal process with sham pleadings. In most states, it's just a notice pleading state, which means nobody has to swear out under the pains and penalties of perjury to the pleadings, support it with a statement of facts and an affidavit alongs to it to actually formulate a case. What does that violate? That violates the Sixth Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. And anybody engaged in that fuckery and that nonsensical horseshit is engaged in mixed war against the Constitution, overthrow of the Republican form of government. We are guaranteed. It's important to understand that. It's important to be able to see that so you, in fact, can hold these public officials accountable under the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. Okay? When they put you in a cage, absent a court of competent jurisdiction finding you guilty of some benign thing that you have done that caused harm, damage, or loss to another man or woman, okay, that is called cruel and unusual punishment. When they said...
And I beg the difference. Well, I don't beg the difference. Right? And even in the Texas codes, right, I'm to see the magistrate directly before going to jail. Well, that's a cruel and unusual punishment, right? Even on the documents, if I get any tickets, especially here and now, it says guilty, not guilty, no contest, and guilty, right? I go on there, scratch all that out, and I put a little box in there, presumed innocent, right? My case has been dropped the last couple of times I've done it. Don't mean it's going to happen every time. It's just coincidence. I don't know. But I scratched that all out, put a little square on there, and gone ahead and checked it and said presumed innocent.
Excessive bail and bond under the Reorganization Act, where they abrogated...
By the way, in the state of Texas, any type of ticket's a crime in Texas without a victim who's a Mr. or Mrs. State of Texas making a claim against I.
The Gold Clause, we look at Article 1, Section 10, or the 10th Amendment, no debt shall be paid other than by way of gold or silver coin issued by the United States Mint, period. Period. Okay? So again, they're using false and misleading and deceptive trade practices of a foreign jurisdiction, usurping power otherwise not delegated to them, to try and drag you into a foreign jurisdiction, which is piracy on the land. It's a form of conspiracy, obviously. It's also counterfeiting, because what are they doing? They're hypothecating your credit into existence. They're creating a performance bond, a bid bond, a warehouse bond, a payment bond. Unbeknownst to you, you have the right to know the nature and cause of the transaction. They'll always tell you the cause. You violated some benign statute, code, city ordinance, rule, or regulation, but they'll never tell you the nature. The nature of the beast is administering a bankruptcy, banking, and hypothecating your credit into existence, all while absconding and abstaining from paying the taxes, okay? Because under Title 26, 2603, Title 26, 2603, 2602, 2001, and 2002, anybody in constructive possession of decedent estate property is liable for the transfer taxes on the carryover basis, all right? So this is where we're nailing their nuts to the wall. But I want to impeach these people. What I just articulated to you is on the commercial public side. Okay, what we're going to be talking about is...
And we're going to not beg the difference again. You use some wrong words, right? This is where they're also supposed to file, because they're foreign to us, they're supposed to file a 1938 Foreign Registration Act. Okay? And also anti-bribery statement. Okay? That's got to be there. And it's actually supposed to be in their full legal name, but we know how that works.
Actually, the constitutional remedy, and the constitutional remedy is impeachment, okay? Because we can prove they knowingly, willfully, and intentionally, which means it's a crime, violated their oath of office, subjected you to extortion, racketeering, piracy, cruel and unusual punishment, denied you due process of law, all while trying to drag you into a foreign jurisdiction, which is mixed war against the Constitution, mixed war against the people, and constitutes grounds for impeachment. All right? So we covered the Eighth Amendment. Now we're going to talk about the Ninth Amendment. The Ninth Amendment is the very finite amount of power that was given both to the federal and the state government is restricted heavily. They really don't have as much power as ladies and gentlemen would like to believe. Their power is very, very, very limited. Their power was never granted to them to lord over us. They were supposed to serve us as our servants, and in a capitalist market make sure that people that were successful in capitalism never subjected us to things like the Chevron deference case. okay? Where we would be subject to the codes and rules and regulations of Walmart, Target, the DMV. These are all private for-profit organizations that unless you're gainfully employed, their rules and regulations don't apply to you, all right?
Which is what they call creature of the state because of business license and all that. We don't have a business license. We are not creature of the state. So all these codes, rules, and regulations does not apply because we are not of the creature of the state or creature of the federal government.
And then, of course, we're told that if you don't get a driver's license, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's all felonious. All right, that's false, misleading, and deceptive trade practices using a false conveyance of language to interfere with trade and commerce and to subvert the Constitution, engaging in mixed war against the Constitution, and furthermore, the people of the United States of America. All right, so understand what I'm saying. It's with a lot of power and a lot of conviction. You guys can do this, and it's really simple, but you need to understand the basics, the framework, the ground that we start building from, okay? And we're going to give them 21 days. The 10th Amendment, I briefly touched on it. The 10th Amendment, how did they violate the 10th Amendment? Very simple. No ex post facto laws, no letter of reprisal, no letters of credit, no letters of marque are to be generated or created by the state or the federal government. Period. Period. So when they're subjecting you to a foreign jurisdiction with foreign bylaws and statutes, codes, city ordinances, rules, and regulations, they just violated the 10th Amendment, ladies and gentlemen. And that's grounds for impeachment, okay? We talked about the enemy belligerent combatant. Know this, only a belligerent has rights. So, if not answered within 21 days, we're going to move to the next step, all right? We're going to be using Article 4, Section 2, and we're going to go grounds for impeachment. Secret Service is counterfeiting, but mostly dollar bills. U.S. Marshal Service used to do what the civil officers do today in your community. I believe they are effective as DOJ, but need to be proven. DOJ, when reporting that jurisdiction issue as described, they will make sure that the civil officers are to stop. So again, you're going to stop the court from moving forward because they're administrative law judges trying to subject you to a foreign jurisdiction, and you're going to put them on notice. Hey, you're engaged in piracy on the land. You're engaged in RICO. You're engaged in extortion. You don't have your proper oaths of office on record. You don't.
And the officer is a, oh man, what is he? Because he's on the land, they call it piracy, but, where's that country song? Highwayman, right? Highwayman is a form of piracy. It's just on the land. Highwayman is for land. Piracy is for the sea. Okay? Unless it's in amnesty. Then the amnesty can be transferred onto the land as well. So, that's catch-22 right there.
Fill the seat of office. It's a conflict of interest. You're a fiduciary trustee. What evidence do you have that I knowingly, willingly, and intentionally entered into a contract that subjects me to the administrative side of the Article 4 military tribunals or Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 jurisdiction? All right.
There we go. All right. These will be the People News. Till next time. Bye, y'all.